Hey everybody, Kevin here. Welcome back. So I was watching a couple woodworking videos because I like watching people build stuff. I watched two separate videos within a half hour of each other and watched people try to flatten a board, face joint a board and square it up. And they both did kind of the same thing on their joiner, but watching them flatten their boards, I was getting crazy. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? I was like yelling at the stupid TV. Stop putting feather boards on your joiner to make things flat. It won't work. God, I can't believe they're doing it again. They're using the fancy tools on their joiner and it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. I've seen this happen so many times. Face joint the board and they're gonna force it down with feather boards and force it down to the bed. That's completely the wrong way. You wanna let all the material that you're flattening float. If you're gonna continue to use a feather board on your joiner to try to get your boards flat, they're never gonna be flat. They might be flat, but they're gonna be arched flat. And I'll explain all this to you in today's video. If this actually helps you, would you please just share it with one of your friends who are also woodworkers and say, hey, check this out, because it's gonna work. It's gonna change how you think about flattening boards, how you go about squaring boards, what procedure you do first, what procedure you do second. Pushing down, forcing things down, using feather boards to hold the board down to the bed is the wrong way to go about it. I want everybody to learn the proper techniques and the right mechanics on how to flatten a board. And if you keep trying to shove the wood down onto the bed and shove it up against the fence, it's never gonna be flat and lay flat without any tension in it. It's always gonna cup up and it's always gonna be twisted. I was so irritated, I came out the next morning and was like, and you'll see. Today we're gonna talk about not using any fancy tools to make your wood perfectly flat. We're just gonna use our hands with these gloves and our joiner, and that's it.
You gotta have the knowledge. Without the knowledge, you won't know about making wood flat.
It's perfectly safe. If you don't feel safe, maybe you should do something else, like take up knitting. That's safe, except you can poke an eye out with one of those needles. So today we're gonna talk about the easiest way to make your wood flat, what to do, where to start, and how to make it happen. You need to know why it is that every time you go to take a hunk of wood and run it through your joiner and you're stuffing it through there using your fancy feather boards and your push sticks and all this other crap, why is it always coming out when you're done? It always looks twisted and curved. I'm gonna explain that to you today. You need a little bit of mechanics on how the damn actual board, if you want it to be straight, how to make it straight. There's a whole video over here, Mill Like a Pro. I want you all to know and have the knowledge up here on how to straighten a crooked board, which I think I've done before, but how to use your joiner without all that fancy crap on it. We're gonna go through all the steps and how to do it, how to make any crooked ass board what you want. So come along and find out what you need to do to make it work. All right. It's typical Mr. Kevin, just starts, Today's video is gonna be about how to flatten boards on your joiner the correct way. Enjoy. If this helps you out, please share it with your friends. So all the woodworking people know out there that this is the proper way to actually join a piece of wood. All right, everybody, here we go. So this is the joiner we're gonna use today. This is my Grizzly 12-inch joiner. It's got an 83-inch bed, spiral head. It's as big as I could fit in this shop. It weighs about 600 pounds, so it doesn't move. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're going to wax our tools. This is what I use. I use Johnson paste wax. You can use any kind of wax, really. So what we're gonna do first, we're gonna open this all the way up, push it all the way back. See, I use it quite a bit. I got a maroon 3M pad, and we're just gonna go around in circles like this. And this kind of takes some of the rust off. If you have a rusty spot on the bed of your joiner and you hit it when you're face joining something, it's gonna slow down. And then once you get past it, it's gonna speed up again. That'll cause you to jerk. You don't wanna be jerky around your damn joiner. Or they'll call you, two-finger Tony. Because you just cut them all off in the joiner. Doing the face of the fence and the bed. If you have any really bad spots, take like 400 grit sandpaper, wet dry sandpaper, put some of this on there and go in one direction and it'll take it right off. It's one of my old t-shirts. This thing's probably 10 years old. All right, so let's see how much crap we get off of here. Now that we've done that and we've cleaned all the dirt and gunk off there, we're gonna flip it around to a nice clean spot. It should take off most all of it. And what we're left with is nice smooth metal. All right, when you get done, it should feel nice and slickery. It shouldn't be any sticky spots. You don't want leftover wax on there. And that feels good. Nice and slippery dippery. Okay, now that we've done that, we're gonna pull this back. I only use the backside of my joiner for plywood. So I pull it in about an inch or so. Plywood screws up your spiral head big time. We're ready to get going. Yeah. Here's one of my silly hieroglyphics I made of a crooked board on a joiner bed. So here's the joiner bed, here's the cutter head. This is your crooked board. You hear me say the tips down, this is tips down. That's the front tip, this is the back tip. This is the belly here. It would be shaped like that. So this is belly up right now. And if I flipped it over and the belly was down here, it'd be belly down. So the safest way to face joint or edge joint something is belly down. And you're gonna see me do this on the joiner here shortly. The cutter head's here, the joiner bed is here, and the fence would be in the back. Hope you don't mind my ugly photograph. I could build stuff out of wood though, I just can't draw. Okay. So after we've waxed up our tools, first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna eyeball the wood that we need to make flat, and we're gonna figure out what side is the flattest. And you put it down and you give it the finger test and see how this is. If the board's twisted a little bit on one side and it's flatter on the other, try to start with that side. So I've already face jointed this board, and I can tell by the X's right here. When I face joint something, I always put these little X's on the back. That way I know it's flat. You can see, totally flat. So pick your battles. Find the flattest side first and go from there. This side here rocks back and forth, which means it's bellied out. So the belly is thicker than the ends, or it's just cut that way. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start in the center and we're gonna work our way out, okay? The other problem you run into is when you have tips out. What happens is the exact opposite of bellied out. So the tips will be arched up. And since I don't have a piece that I can find, I'm gonna go cut one. I'm gonna go cut one on the bandsaw. So I'll show you both ways. So we're gonna start with the belly. We're gonna take that out, and then I'm gonna show you the tips once I go cut that out, and I'll show you the safest way to do that. This works for little 4-foot boards as well as it works for 10-foot boards. You just have to eyeball it, pick your battles, and start with the most flattest side and work your way out from there. So we're gonna pretend now that this is my joiner bed. This is the cutter head right here. So the first thing we're gonna do is talk about grain direction. If you can, make sure your grain is going this way. Here's the cutter head here. Here's the in-feed side of the table. Here's the out-feed side of the table. What we wanna do is when we go to join a board, we wanna make sure the grain is going this way. See that, how it is? And feed it through like that, if at all possible. I know it's not always possible. Sometimes you got weird boards that the grain goes both ways. This is good. Grain going this way is bad. What usually happens is it tends to blow out. It chips it out because the grain is going this way, and you're forcing it into like an end grain cut, sort of. Not all boards are the same, so sometimes you just have to do it that way, and you might want to go a little slower. Grain going this way is bad. Grain going this way is good. Whenever you're flattening anything, it doesn't matter if you're face joining it flat like this or you're edge joining it like this. You never put pressure on the out-feed table. So in-feed is here. Feed the wood across the cutter head and out to the out-feed table, okay? Because these tables are actually separate and they move. The whole trick to this whole thing is to use gravity. Let's say there's a fence here. This thing is tips down, okay? So that means it would be arched up like this. As you're feeding it through, and you're gonna hold this down, you can put a little pressure here until you get this across about 3 inches. And if it's still arched up a lot, you're gonna come back and you're gonna go across it again, go about 6 or 8 inches. And if it's still arched up over here and you got lots of room, you're gonna come back and do it again. And you're gonna see me do this on the video. And then we're gonna slide it across here, run across over here, and then you can do the back. Basically, you cut the back off, you lift it up, put it back down, cut that off more until it runs smoothly, and your arch here is, like 1/8 of an inch. And then you run the whole board. And when you run the whole board, you push it up against the fence with this hand here, you feed it up against the fence as you're going across. You're not pushing down on the outfeed table at all. No pushing down, no pressure. What you can do is take this hand here and push it up against the fence and keep feeding it this way, pushing down with this hand here and feeding it that way, boop, until you're done. Never use pressure on the outfeed table. Before you do anything like this, you want to mark it with a pencil, just like that. So this is going to show us what's being cut off the board. And that way we know what to look for. We got it marked here. We're gonna lay it flat on here. We're gonna hold down the back with this hand. This hand here, we're gonna push down with light pressure until we get across a couple inches across the cutter head. And then you can let go, basically, and just keep pushing this way. Okay, pull it, take it out, take a look at it. Still gotta take off some more up here, going across here. Just let it float. Let it float across the top, push down on this side, and whatever it's meant to do, it's gonna do. Whether it's twisted, it's got a whatever in it, it will flatten the board out. And once all your pencil marks are gone and it looks like that, then you're flat. When it comes to longer boards like this, you're going to look down and sight down which side's which. If one's bellied out or one's tipped out like this. So if I wanted to face joint this thing, I would take it here and I'd cut this off like this, and I'd just let it float across there, push down the bottom, and cut off the back. Come back here and do the same damn thing. Kind of hold it till it crosses, okay, and just let it float. I would hardly even put any pressure back here until we get right to the end, and I just push down. Because if you're gonna push down here and shove it down, If your board is arched up like this and you're shoving it down as hard as you can to get it go through, as soon as you let go on this side, it's gonna go boink, it's gonna pop back up because it's still under pressure. It's the way it grew. You didn't take the time to flatten it before you cut it. And if you think I'm wrong, take a board that you find that is twisted or it's got a really bad curve to it and then run it through your planer. Okay, just run it through your planer and see what happens. You run one side through the planer, you flip it over, you run the other side through the planer, what happens? You take it out, you look down it, it's still just as crooked as it was before. You didn't take out the material you needed to make it flat. So anytime you get a bright idea of using a featherboard to push in on your fence, that might be okay. But down on the outfeed table, no. Don't use any pressure on the outfeed of a joiner. Don't force it down. Don't put your power feed out there and drag it through thinking you're gonna make a flat board. Base joining is about taking out the tension out of a crooked board. So it's not like this when you're done. You wanna cut it and cut the tips off or the belly until it's done. Put belly down and you run it through, and you're gonna see me do that too. You're gonna keep doing that until the board is perfectly flat. Look, magic. It's magic. And then you go about ripping it and doing whatever else. And there's a bunch more we could talk about, but I'm gonna show you right now on the other joiner. This board here has been face jointed already. This side hasn't. So to find out if we're doing any good, right, I'm just gonna put a bunch of pencil marks in here. All right, just like that. And that's gonna tell us where we're cutting, where we're not. So when you're going to stuff it through and your cutter head is here, you always wanna make sure, if it's all possible, to have the grain going this way. Okay, so you're cutting the grain is going down. The grain is kind of coming up and your cutter head's here. That's no good because it'll tend to chip that out. So even at 30 seconds, sometimes it doesn't. So we're gonna start with this side here. Okay, this is the belly down side. And it's set at 32nd of an inch, but we're gonna hold the center. Okay, so we're gonna start there. This board here, you can see how screwed up I cut it on the bandsaw, so it looks dumb. This side is arched. Okay, so you can see this one here. And sometimes you get boards that are like this. See how crazy that looks? So when it comes from the lumber yard, sometimes if they don't have a straight line machine, you get boards that look like this. And you have to take care of that. And I'm gonna show you how to do that the safest way possible. If at all possible, you start with a side like this and take the belly out. That's not the grain you want, and it's not gonna work out for you. I'm gonna show you the safest way to do this. So the first thing we're gonna start with is this board here. We're gonna take the belly out of it. And I'll try to be very careful. I'm gonna hold this out so you can actually see. We're gonna start here. I'm gonna turn the machine on, and I'm gonna hold the center. We're gonna cut the belly out. We've got our pencil marks on there so we know what we're cutting. And away we go. Okay, pushing down the center. You hear that? Didn't hit back here. Missed up here. But it hit this knot. Did you hear it hit the knot? Knots are bad. So this time I'm going to flip the board over and we're going to send this grain in first. Hold the middle again. Only spot left is right here. You got one more pass right here. Now, if you want, you could hold the whole thing down and make an even pass. Nothing. Doesn't wiggle at all. Completely flat. Just like the other side that we did first. This side we got all of the material off. This is madrone. It's heavy, it's twisted, and it's not very forgiving. Very hard. We have the madrone completely flat, and the way we did that is by pushing in the middle. We didn't push down the front and just keep feeding it over. So now what we're gonna do, we have a board like this, right? The place where we got our lumber doesn't have a straight line saw or anything like that, and you have a board like this. This is the safest way to make this board flat, is to use the belly side down. So if it's belly down, it's safer than this way, which is tips down. Okay, these are the tips. Tips down is harder and not as safe as belly down. Belly, we're taking the middle out. We're gonna use the same damn technique. We're gonna start in the middle, get it where you want it, hold it down, and we're gonna feed it through and just cut the belly out, and we're gonna go back and forth. Same technique. Get it where you like it, hold it there. All the way through. I'm pushing in with my thumb, down with my hand. Come back here, we're doing the same thing, same spot. Feed it through. Okay? It's the same action every single time until we get this closer and closer to being flat. My hand won't move. It's going to stay in the same exact spot, right in the middle. All that's left now is just the tip. One more. It's kind of the same thing, right? When it was bowed up and the belly down, we pushed in the center and we fed it through and just let its own weight take care of it. This one, I left a little spot right there. I don't know if you can see it because I got tired of joining it. But it's the same way. We took the belly out. We found where we wanted to keep our center, pushing in with our thumb, down with our hand, and cut the same spot. Pick it up, same spot, drop it down. This board's only 3 feet long. If it was 8 feet long, I'd do the same damn thing, except I'd stand back farther and hold it and then just let it float on through, always pushing down in the same spot, okay? This is the safest way. The belly out is the easiest way, but sometimes your grain sucks and you really don't want to do that. So now I'm going to show you how to take the tips off. And when you have a tip that drastic, it's dangerous. So it'll want to kick back at you. Another reason I have it set at a 30-second, I could take several passes at a 30-second and it won't be as bad as if this thing was set to a 16th or an 1/8 or a quarter. What we're going to do is I'm going to take a couple passes at the front, take that tip down a little bit, and then I'm going to come back to the back and we're going to work this down, and then we're going to work the middle down, and we're going to keep going back and forth till we got it all flat. And I'm going to do the same exact thing. You've got to hold on to it though, because this tip is going to want to go into the cutter and it's going to drop down just like that. And that's down probably an 1/8 of an inch. So it's going to want to snap back at you. Be careful, wear your protection. Here we go. We're not pushing down hard. We're just going to hold on to it. Can you see? All right, that's as far as it wanted to go. We're going to do that until it flows smoothly. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we're going to cut the back out. And then we're going to come back a little farther. Same thing. We're going to do that until the middle hits. Okay, see it's rocking on the middle? See that? So we're going to come back to the middle. Now we're going to do the middle. And now we're going to do the whole thing. See how that works? There we go, we joined it down. So we started in the front of the board, kind of worked our way until it ran smoothly. And then we went to the back of the board here and we cut this out until it ran smoothly, and then actually till it started hitting the center. And that's it. And that's perfectly square and flat board. You don't force anything down. You don't shove anything down. You just let the wood do its thing. All I was doing is holding against the fence with my hand and feeding it through. No pushing pressure down. No pushing the front end first to grind it down. You want to let everything just float across. So now you know how to take the tips off. You know how to cut the belly out, hopefully. All right, so this works for tall boards too. I don't know if you can be able to see this or not. Okay, so now that I just cranked the ISO up on my damn camera because I'm an idiot, this is bellied out. So it's bellied like this. We're just gonna hold it up here. We're gonna push up against the fence and cut it that way. This one's tips down now, and you can see the tip is touching here and it's touching in the back. I'm just gonna run through how I normally do it. There's no pushing on the outfeed. There's pushing up against the fence here to keep it square and plumb, but there's no pushing down on the outfeed table at all. I don't do any of that, especially when I'm taking the belly out or the tips. I don't need to. Okay, we just let it float.
Let it float.
Holding back here in the middle, pushing my finger up against the thing. It's cutting it already. Did we get the whole thing? We'll do it one more time. I'm back here off the cutter, I'm way back here, pushing with my right hand, way in the back, pushing with my middle finger up against the fence. Okay, just like that. It's perfectly flat. Nice. Okay, now we're gonna do tips. Tips down, so I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna hold it in the middle, put my finger up against the fence, and we're gonna feed it in, not pushing down. Okay, nothing. Okay, sometimes you can start in the middle, and cut the back off. And then come back to the front. Sometimes that helps. Okay, I'm not pushing down on the outfeed at all. You can see right here is where it's scant still, right? Where we've missed. One more pass and I think we got it. We got it. Okay, there it is. Perfectly flat, both sides. I do not push down on the outfeed table at all. Now I do push down a little bit against the fence with my fingers as I'm feeding it through like this. Okay, no hands right there, see that? And I'll hold the back and I'll keep pressure on the back. I never push down on the outfeed side at all. But let's say I was going to make this flat because it's got bellied out. I would, when I'm running it through here, the only time I would hold down the front is when I'm going into the cutter head. Once I've gone over the cutter head, I'm about 3 inches away, my hand's all the way in the back and I'm just gonna feed it like this. All pressure back here as it's going through. In the intro, you see me doing the same thing. My hand's back here. I don't ever put pressure on the outfeed side of the table at all because that won't make your board flat. I hope that was helpful. I was editing this video down and I forgot I had this board. And I actually have to use this for my granddaughter's Christmas present. So this board is going to be tips down. It's 8 feet long, it's about 6 or 7 inches wide, and we're gonna flatten it. So we always start by face joining the boards flat, and then we'll do the edge last, so we have a nice square edge. We're gonna go tips down, so it's arched up like this, and it's a little twisted. This right now is at 1.5 inches thick. I need like 1.25 inches. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna take our pencil and make a mark. Okay, this board is cupped, it's twisted, and it's tips down, so that's how we're gonna start it. And I'm gonna start way back here. We'll try it without the dust collector to see what happens. Just gonna feed it. And I'm just letting the weight of the board take it. Look how twisted that is. I only hit back here, and I hit over there somewhere. I'm gonna keep doing this. Pressure down on the in-feed table, not the out-feed table. We're hitting here. We're also hitting the outside here, and we're getting most of this back here. Letting gravity do its job. Oh yeah, we're gonna clog this thing up. Hitting the front, hitting the side. We're starting to hit the whole thing all the way back here, but we're slowly but surely taking the twist out of it. I'm gonna turn the dust collector on, it's gonna be nasty. Way back here, here we go. Okay, just let it float. See, we're hitting here, we're not hitting here, because the board was twisted. We hit the very front, most all of the back is done. Now it's just taking out that little scant piece right there, which is twisted. The weight of the board is doing all the cutting, I'm not doing squat. I'm just feeding it back here. Ugh. God, that's heavy. See that, we're getting more of it, almost there. Ugh. See that last little bit, right there. Everything else is hitting. Oh God. This is the last spot. Everything else is flat. Ugh. All right, we got the whole entire board. It's flat now. Now we have this board completely flattened. We're gonna put an edge on it, right? I'm gonna make that nice and square. And now, what do we got here? You see what this is? So this is belly down. This is perfectly square up against the fence, but this board is belly down, 8-foot board, okay? And it's touching right here, right there. So I'm gonna bring this way the hell out here. Okay. Squeaker says to be very careful starting something like this because it could just kick back at you if you're pushing in the wrong spot. I'm gonna bring this back here. I'm gonna start the joiner. I'm gonna hold it right here. I'm gonna push up against the fence with this hand here. We're just gonna join that flat. And I'm just letting the weight do it. See that? Now I'm almost off the fence completely. Hear that? Now it's done. And you can kind of eyeball it. Like back here, it's off the fence. Here it's all touching, right? Now it's gonna stop right here. There you go. I'm pushing all the way back. I'm almost off the fence. My hand is a foot past the end of this table. We got one more pass after this. Now I'm just gonna feed it from back here, let the weight carry that. And I'm pushing this against the fence, making sure it's square. Okay, one more time. Same thing. Up against the fence with this hand. Pressure's way in the back of the in-feed table. All right, and there it is. So, we put a nice square edge on there. See if I can stick it up against here. Flat, flat, completely flat. The other side's all tweaky. Why is that still tweaky? Because we haven't sent this through the planer yet. So when we go to send this through the planer, you want to use your calipers, find the thickest spot, set your planer to like a 1/16 below that thickness, and then run it. Keep running it until it's flat, and you'll have a flat board. And there you go. Just that simple. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please do so below. I'll get to you as soon as I can. I answer everybody. If this doesn't make any sense to you, I apologize. If it doesn't, email me. In the About section, you'll find my email. Or just comment below, and I'll try to get to you when I can. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have a very Merry New Year, and stay safe out there, and I'll see you soon. All right. Adios, amigos.
Subscribe now.
I'm gonna put on my Poindexter glasses so I look smarter. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do today, dude, like totally, man. Alrighty then. If you're trying to make boards like this that are as flat as possible, it's possible because check out these. See, I can make this totally flat. Look how flat that is, just by twisting the end here. See how I'm doing this? It's an optical illusion. Don't be silly. Things like this, this won't work for. Oops. Yeah, this doesn't make it a lot better. Sheesh. I'm getting irritated again. Worst ever. Ugh, terrible.